Hello everyone, and welcome back to what is the last tactic video for a long time. Now, it's going to be a short one. I'm not going to give too much of an explanation of how the tactic works or anything like that. We're kind of just going to go through how the results work. Things mostly because you have already seen the test of it, not really the test, but the usage of it by myself, the Evain save. And I figured with that not being the main tactic we use, you guys would appreciate this one. I didn't end up doing the holiday stuff that I was considering in the past to do. I just ran out of time before I had to leave for the holidays. So that's unfortunate. But figured we at least get this one in. You can see how it works. I have the normal adaptation of it, which I use with those teams, and I have the advanced adaptation, which is for teams that are better. So obviously that variant is for the weaker teams where like Evian we're really weak and we're playing against teams that are opposing in the upper division. So like you're already expecting not to have the ball to be countering all the time. And then there's one now, which I'll show you the test for, which is a bit more of the, here is the, we want to have a bit more possession. We want to do a little bit more with it. But we will first start with the most basic one, which is the exact replica of the tactic that I used in the Evian save. So we'll hop over to the game now and take a look. Okay, so here is how it looks. So obviously the tactic right here, this is the one that we used in the Evian save that I got the really good results against Rennes and Marseille against. Obviously the Rennes was a loss, but still tactically we did really well, and statistically we were amazing, should have won the game, which is the really important thing. So that worked out well. If you look at the overall, 6th best defense, you're really poor in attack, but you're great defensively, and that's kind of the big use here. I used a team like Brentford, just figured their expected position was, what is it? Brentford expected 11th, so they're a bit more of a mid-table team of where you'd expect, and I figured a bit mid-table here was going to really be struggling against some of the big ones, so I chose them. And, they did all right. They finished 9th, not too far above expectations, but still pretty good. If we look at some results, obviously it did get beat here pretty big, but you do see a win against an Arsenal, which is nice to see, a 2-0 win against Man City. So it does work. You do lose to these teams here. Obviously, I think you're going to lose to teams that press you really heavily because the system doesn't work against the press, but you did lose against them, Man City here. You did beat Man United here. So as you do see, it works. It's not a perfect system, but again, I don't think this is a perfect tactic. It is something that you need to work on and adjust and use as things go on. But still, you can see some of the upside to using it, how it fared against these teams. Now, again, this first bit, this is just the basic system. This is the one that I used for Evian. In this game, so you can see Montpellier, they finished 9th. They were expected to finish 13th, so a slight improvement. But again, the 4th best defense this time around, so you can see really defensively strong. It needs a bit more in attack. So I think one thing for this is that if you have some really dynamic or players that are just really good on their own, you're going to be able to do much more. We do look at some of the results. Like they started off really well, 5-0 against Le Havre, 3-0 against Lyon, 2-1 against Lille. Some pretty big results, obviously losing to PSG, but a 0-0 against Monaco, 0-0 against Lens, which is really good, nearly doing the double over Lille. You again do well, 0-0 with Marseille. You come close to beating PSG. They had a really poor end of the season after a really good start, but you can still see there's some really good defensive results here. If you can get that attack going, you're going to be fine, but it's going to need a bit of help within itself. We can also look at some of the possession stats. Stats team detailed. You can see you're all the way down there, 40% of the ball. So you're going to have a really low percentage of the ball. You need people that when they get the ball can do really dynamic and make a really massive difference because you're not going to have a lot with this tactic. Now, I bet if we look at some of the defensive stats, as well. Final third passes against, but you're also going to see not very high in terms of the PPDA. It's pretty low as well, so you're going to be sitting off, not doing as much PPDA as you would expect with other teams. But you will foul a lot. That's the other thing. Fouls are used heavily. You guys know, if you know anything about my systems, I love using fouls to create problems. And if you also look here, really good defensively, one of the best XG against. And if we go to Mallorca, going to be a lot of the similar things. Obviously, not as good defensively. They're expected to finish down in 18th. So they're a lot worse than anyone else, which is the big one there. So they jumped up to 10th, which is good. I mean, it's great, but I don't know. I mean, I think the media prediction was quite different. Yeah, the board expectation is mid-table, so they expect much more of what the team should be doing. The media prediction here was 15th. Season preview was 18th. But yeah, like they expect a lot more. But still, he did pretty well with what they've done. 10th best. If you look at the stats and some of the results first, you can see the win against Barcelona, win against Valencia, hammered by Madrid, but you beat Villarreal, draw with Sevilla, hammered by Atletico, which is not great. But you can see there are some good results here, like you've got against Sociedad, which is pretty big. Another big loss against Madrid, which doesn't help. But Barca, 2-2. Bilbao, you've managed to beat as well. A 0-0 with Atletico. So there are some really good results against some of the bigger teams with this system. It's just a bit inconsistent, and I think that's the kind of the defining issue here. Also, Real Madrid went undefeated and won everything, which doesn't help. But yeah, that's how it tends to go with those things. So that's kind of it for this bit of it. I mean, there's not much else to talk about. You've kind of seen some of the stats and how they lay out. They're going to be quite similar for these teams here. We go to possession and look here, all the way down to the bottom, 41%. So pretty consistent numbers across teams. If we go to passes per defensive action, really, really low again, really minimal in terms of that stuff. If we do look, the expected goals against, you're mid-table, but still pretty good. Nowhere near some of the worst teams, just around 46, which is definitely close to some of the better teams defensively. So again, like, you do well in terms of those things. You were pretty good with that. Fouls made, yet you're going to be up there as well. So you got to be wary about players too high of aggression possibly hurting you in that sense. But that's kind of what you're going to see with this setup. So this is the first one. If you guys do want to know the roles, it is a cautious mentality. To start with, this is obviously a custom slate as I usually use. Start with the player roles before we go into that. Sweeper, keeper, undefend with tackle harder. Wide center backs are identical for both of your left and right center backs. You have more direct passing, closed end more, ease off tackles, and mark tighter. And this is the same for each of these two. The middle center back is closed end more and tackle harder. He's a no-nonsense center back on cover. Your right wing back and left wing back, the exact same as well. Cross from deep, stay wider, close down less, ease off tackles, and mark tighter as well as they get further forward, but that does not need to be selected. 2 DMs on support, which are get further forward, ease off tackles, and mark tighter. Your 2 10s, again, very much working on a symmetrical system here. Stay wider, close down more, and tackle harder. And finally, up top for our advanced forward on attack is dribble more, shoot more often, and tackle harder. So very, very symmetrical on all of this, but that's kind of the goal. You want to be defensively set up to be able to defend against either team, any team's shape and how they attack you down either side, and then be able to counter with very symmetrical systems. So that's kind of the point of it. Again, it's a simple bunker counter. Don't press too high. In that sense, in possession, it's get the ball wide. So we want to stay wide. We want to pass into space to target those areas in space for us to run into. A standard passing directness, a much higher tempo. You can add low crosses if you want. I've just kept it on mix, but you can definitely do low cross if you have smaller players. Change it around if you don't. In transition, counter press and counter. If you do feel like the opposition is sitting off you, you can click roll out or distribute to center backs, especially with us having more direct passes here. You can hopefully pull a bit of the press onto them before your players go direct, which will hopefully help you out. Doesn't always, but it's something that can help. And then finally, high line of engagement and a higher defensive line with get stuck in, prevent short goalkeeper distribution, and much more often. Now, we don't have a very high amount of passes per defensive action with this very isolated front group, but the point is to encourage long balls here where we have so many bodies that can win the ball back and then counter from it. So it's like using one way to create something else to have happen. But the point is we don't want them to go short. We want to be really aggressive to force that long ball and then be high up the field so we can compress the pitch and counterattack into much smaller spaces instead of us being all the way back here, needing to counterattack into all this space. We now have much less distance to go and counterattack into. because we are so, like, we don't send a lot of bodies. So that's this first system. We'll now move on to the second system, and I will show you what that looks like. All right, so here is the second version of it that I've made, which is a bit more built for, I'd say not a bit more, but it is definitely built for some better teams. You look at the overview here, defense is a bit up, attacking-wise not as amazing as the others, but still, you're definitely much higher up the table, more points and everything else, so you're doing much better in that sense. And you'll see, too, because as much as these guys have finished 7th, Montpellier and Mallorca finished 5th, so they went much, much higher. But yeah, you've got Europa League in here. If we look at some of the results, not doing as well against some of the big teams, but if you look at some of the kind of middle of the road teams, you're getting results against them. Still a 1-1 against City, a 1-0 win against Chelsea. You don't need to look at that horrible patch of form, but 2-1 win over Newcastle, 2-0 win against Aston Villa. You're not beating some of these guys as much as you are, which isn't great, not as much against Liverpool, but the thing is you're kind of going to be playing a bit more of this system against the weaker teams, and you're doing really, really well against them. There's a bit of the difference of if you probably match these two up in terms of the first one using for one and the second one using for another, you'll probably do a lot better in that way to get that effect. You look at team detail in terms of possession. You're a bit more middle of the road with possession, still under 50%, but we're a little bit higher in terms of where those things are going to sit. If we look at PPD, we again move higher up PPD. We're a bit more towards the middle of the table for that one. Expected goals against is still really, really, really high though. Like that's the big, really low, I should say, but really down there at 4th, expected to have the fourth best defense of the league. Obviously, they did concede 44, should have only really conceded 35, but as you can at least see, the numbers are there, and it's creating minimal chances. You're just conceding some really high value ones. It also doesn't help that apparently the Brentford AI conceded 9 corners and 5 indirect free kicks. So that definitely changes things. But just giving you a perspective at the very least of what the quality of it can do. And if you look at the whereas, oh my god, I can't find it. Expected goals for, it's pretty middle of the road. Not too bad. We even look at the data hub. They are expected to finish 7th, but they did underachieve in terms of goals and points this year. So it shows you that you are going to get some good results, and hopefully if you can overachieve, you'll do even better. But this is underachieving and still a pretty good result for underachieving. If we look at Montpellier, we can see here they slightly overachieved their numbers on this, but still finishing 5th, really close to 4th, and getting that UCL place. The 6th best defense, the 3rd best goals scored, so it worked a lot better in their favor for the counterattacking system. We look at some of the results: beating OL, beating Lille, narrow loss to PSG, 1-1 against Nice. They just kind of couldn't seem to get the results. But again, 1-goal losses, that's the big thing. You're not losing by a very large margin. With the exception of the Brest result, they've done the double over Lyon, which is pretty impressive. Bit of a big result there against PSG, but beating Lens, Monaco as well in that group. So you've got some good results here for sure. Doesn't help when you go on a massively bad stretch in the middle of the season. But still, there's some really good results and some really nice things to see in terms of how they've played. Again, we'll take a look at the stats. But as you can see, in terms of in possession, they're more towards the 48%. You're just kind of just under 50 now. You're getting a little bit more of the ball, nothing too intense. Passes per defensive action, it's still really low for Montpellier, but you're expecting to be a little bit higher up. They are very close, a lot of these numbers. Expected goals against, what was that, 1, 2, 3, 5th best defense you'd be expected to see. They obviously, what is it, 37, 38.4, they concede 39, so very similar to what you'd expect to concede from it, but still much better. In terms of expected goal for, you're a lot higher up, again, like 6th place for the most expected, 3rd in terms of actual goals, so overperformed for sure there, but you can see there's definitely a lot more to it in terms of the attack with this system. It's just you can kind of get caught out at times because you are playing much higher up. And you have much more of the ball. Mallorca, though, if that disappears, 4th best defense and 9th best in terms of goals scored. Better system for sure, continuing to show that. But again, you are having more of the ball. So this is one of those things you're probably going to want to use if you're level with these teams and in the division with them over the first system, which is going to be really geared towards if you are not a part of that division. We go up to possession. You can see more middle of the road, but still around that 48% mark, right where we're kind of having all of this system where it's right under the 50%. You're not having the ball more the opposition, but you're not having it that much less than them as well. For our, where is it? Our passes per defensive action, they're much lower down Mallorca than other teams, but again, we're not looking to be a crazy high press. We're looking to create long balls to then counterattack from. If we then look at expected goals against, 4th best defense apparently in the league. It's what they're supposed to be having. Should have only conceded 36. In the end, they conceded 40. Not terrible, but you can see what company they're a part of. Really high level defending is what we want to see. You're giving yourself the opportunity to do well. Expected goals 42, and they ended up scoring 53. So they overperformed there. But it's not the greatest in attack, but it's defensively quite solid, and you can get a lot from it, especially with counterattacks. If we look at some of the results, losing Madrid, beat Villarreal, hammered Barcelona, which is pretty impressive, beat Valencia, draw with Atletico, big win against Vallecano. We go further down, loss against Madrid, which is unfortunate, but a draw against Villarreal, did the double over Barcelona this year, picked up points against Valencia, picked up points against Bilbao. We go further down, again, just a really good end of the month, only 1 goal conceded in like this insane, 2 goals conceded in their last God knows how many games. So you can definitely see the impact that it has and what difference it does make for some of these lower level teams. Now, it's no perfect system. It's nothing amazing, but it can make a big difference. That's what we're looking for. As you can see, it's much more instructions. It's on a balanced mentality this time around. Superkeeper is defend, tackle harder. Right and left center backs are the same exact as the other system. Just again, wide center back on defend with more direct passes, close down more, ease off tackles, and mark tighter. Your no-nonsense center back on cover in the middle is on close down more and tackle harder. Again, this is the same exact as before. Left and right wingbacks on support, cross from deep, stay wider, close down less, ease off tackles, and mark tighter. Your 2 6s are both DM on support with get further forward, ease off tackles, and mark tighter. Your 2 10s are both attacking midfielders on support with stay wider, close down more, and tackle harder. And finally, your advanced forward on attack is dribble more, shoot more often, and tackle harder. Balanced mentality this time around. In possession, we're going for shorter passing, higher tempo, fairly narrow, because we're asking players to get wide, and we want to be able to connect some passes quickly with these clumps. We want these guys to be more closely associated together, these guys to be more closely associated together, and then with them moving into the wider areas, we then can target these zones with 1, 2, 3, and then possibly a 4th and a 5th there joining into the sides. So we want to fast focus down those avenues, pass into space, target those areas to counter, high tempo, and you also have run to defense, which is trying to get a bit more out of that team. Like I said before, you need individual attackers to make stuff happen, so having them run will make it happen, and then I stuck on low crosses because I always feel like that works a little bit better when you have some more possession. This time around, we are counter-pressing, countering, and rolling the ball out of the back. Again, we're looking for a little bit more possession out of these players, and with the more direct passes, they're going to be looking to target those flanks, which is what we want to see. And same exact setup for the defending high press, line of engagement, higher defensive line, prevent short goalkeeper distribution much more often, and get stuck in. Now, nothing too special in terms of these. It's just some different tactical instructions and a bit more advanced in the mentality. But still, you can see the bit of differences from them. This one tends to work a bit more with these higher level teams. I recommend the first system with some smaller ones, and then this with some more higher level teams. But I think if you mix the two together, you could probably create quite a good balance of the two and do really well using that other one against some teams that are a bit more high press, a bit more looking to go direct on you, whereas this one you can use against teams that I'd say are a bit more possession heavy. As you can see, like, we got some really good results against Barcelona, who are definitely going to be looking to play more with the ball and be more possession heavy. So because of that, I'd suggest possibly doing a bit of that. But toy around with yourselves and see what works. I just wanted to give you guys a test to see and show you how that does work, because I'm sure people are going to be intrigued. Whoa, with those numbers against Marseille and Rennes, that must have been a really good system. What did he do? Just wanted to show you these things. And again, what also doesn't help is I constantly make tweaks in game when I'm playing on my own. I don't do it as much when recording episodes, because that would take me ages to get through one game. But those little tweaks make a difference. But still, I think you guys can be quite successful with both of these tactics, and I do wish you loads of luck. Well, I hope you guys did enjoy this tactic video. It's a bit more condensed, a bit quicker than I've done in the past. That's just with holidays coming up and just wanting to close out everything on a good note for the end of the year with you guys. That's kind of what we've come to with this one. But a bit more of the counter focus with these two. Hopefully that they do bring you some success. Obviously, they'll be included both in the Evain download folder as well as in the link for this tactic video as well. So hopefully you guys can take those, work on the Evain save, and see how you do in the first division, because you get promoted right away and you got to figure that out. That's not going to be an easy task. So hopefully these two tactics can make a big difference with that one. But have a happy holidays, everyone. Hope you guys all enjoy that. Maybe play some FM to make up for it. But hey, it's still sticking around and it's still kicking. You guys are still watching, and I really appreciate that. I hope I can eventually make some more videos, but right now it's going to be a hiatus. This will be the last time you hear me for a while. Maybe not, but that's what it looks like right now. So just want to say a big thank you to all of you for watching and all the comments and support. I'm going to try to go through this holidays and answer as many comments as I can, and help you guys out if needed. Always feel free to join the Discord and ask questions tactic-wise, or if there's things I'm doing. I do play on my own and just personal saves and stuff like that. And yeah, but I don't think I'll be touching any of these YouTube videos for a long time, just with everything that's going on in my life right now. But yeah, thank you again, everyone, for watching. Have a wonderful day where you are in the world, and enjoy the holiday season.